All right, proceedings coming to you from Cape Town, particularly in Parliament. South Africans finding out this morning the breaking news that National Treasury has decided to withdraw the decision to exempt Eskom from the Public Finance Management Act. This was, of course, announced in a government gazette that they issued over the weekend, saying that Eskom wouldn't have to tell the country in terms of wasteful and fruitless expenditure during 3 financial years, all the way to the financial year that we're currently in. So the minister letting us know, Minister Enoch Godongwana and his team letting us know this morning that they've decided to withdraw it. He said that they do take South Africans' concerns around whether or not this was a way to deal corruptly in terms of Eskom quite seriously. They tried to also explain again exactly why the decision was made, talking about the fiscus and how the fiscus is in danger because Eskom keeps wanting bailouts from government, and this would still give them borrowing power from investors instead of them having to keep asking government for bailouts. So that's what we've heard now from Parliament so far. But of course, MPs and opposition parties not pleased with this, saying the minister was very badly advised. So let's get some reaction on what we've just heard with Accountability Now's advocate Paul Hoffman. He joins us now virtually. Mr. Hoffman, thank you very much for your time. Hearing that this decision has been withdrawn, but throughout this time, National Treasury still tried to explain why they took this decision, yet they're withdrawing it. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I think that the withdrawal is in fact a done deal already, although some of the parliamentarians seem to be concerned that it hasn't been done properly yet. And when eNCA broke away, we were about to get an answer to that aspect. So it's been a bit like an Agatha Christie novel all morning, and certainly not a good idea to give Eskom the exemption in the context in which Eskom's former CEO has claimed on eNCA in an interview with Enoch that R1 billion a month is being stolen from Eskom by cartel activity within Eskom. So that step in giving an exemption was a misstep, and it seems that the executive branch of government has understood that. And it brings us to really 3 points out of the Constitution. The first comes from Section 1, which requires that there be open, accountable, and responsive systems of governance in South Africa. It seems that that is now accepted wholeheartedly by the Treasury and by the Minister of Finance. They talk about transparency, accountability, and consequence management, which is close enough for me. The second is that the principles applicable to Eskom set out in Section 195 of the Constitution, and in particular, the idea that public resources should be used effectively, efficiently, and economically, is being brought closer to the front of the stove in the revised thinking of the Treasury and the Ministry of Finance in relation to the way that Eskom is being run. The third point that I would raise is simply this, that our Constitution requires of any entity that spends public money on goods and services that a system must be in place that sees to it that there is fair, equitable, cost-effective, competitive, and transparent system in place. That, I think, is the direction in which we're heading, especially when the acting DG of the Treasury says that the problem is that law enforcement against those who have been stealing Eskom blind is our weak spot. He actually admitted in the course of the parliamentary proceedings this morning that the problem with Eskom is that there is no law enforcement in respect of the irregular expenditure that goes on in the form of corrupt activity. So it's a good day for accountability in South Africa, And let's hope that the enforcement of anti-corruption activity begins as from today.
Well, talking about accountability, something that, National Treasury was saying today, the DG emphasizing that, for instance, material losses through criminal activity, Eskom would still have to report that on its annual report, saying that this would assist with accountability. They also said it would help with the annual financial statement and would be subject to an audit. I just wrote my notes down in terms of what they said. But in terms of accountability and them saying that they'd be exempted from the PFMA, but at the same time saying they would have to, report any material losses due to criminality, is that accountability as well? Is it understandable why South Africans feel as though there was still going to be something hidden there?
Yes, the way that it came across with the publication of the Gazette was that it seemed that there was an effort being made to put lipstick on the pig. That is a sort of pulling the wool over the eyes of institutions that may be inclined to lend money to Eskom. We've had it explained to us in the parliamentary proceedings this morning that the state is going to be subventilating Eskom's finances with an amount of 254 billion rand, which is a lot of money not to be sneezed at, and that accordingly Eskom for the next 3 years is not going to be going into the market looking for working capital or for money in any way, shape or form. Well, you don't need to if you're getting 254 billion rand from the taxpayer. And really what needs to happen is to ensure that the entire system is given the law enforcement assistance that will bring an end to the grand corruption with impunity.
Yeah.
And that Eskom is given the opportunity to actually provide electricity. State of disaster has ended today. The electricity state of disaster has ended today in the context of the outer litigation on that front. And the reversing away from the exemption that was announced days ago is both of those are steps in the right direction.
Yeah, and Mr. Hoffman, just lastly and very quickly, looking at accountability, it is Parliament that is supposed to actually have oversight on different departments, different SOEs, etc. And Parliament itself has been found wanting in that aspect. Even the reports, the state capture report, saying that Parliament doesn't practice its oversight role adequately, right? We have civil society organizations such as OUTA making sure that government is held accountable, for instance, what you just touched on with the national state of disaster. So today, do you think that parliamentarians and those MPs that questioned National Treasury practice their oversight role properly?
Yes, I think that they are sensitive to the criticism that they correctly received from the Zondo Commission. In that report, one of the findings was that Parliament has been sleeping at the wheel. There was no sleeping at the wheel going on today. I think across the board and across the spectrum of political parties represented on the committees that were being briefed by the Minister of Finance, there was an alertness and an interrogation of the steps that have been taken that is refreshing and hopefully bodes well for the future of parliamentary oversight and ensuring the implementation of the laws that are made.